Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your support on GunGuyTV. I'm very, very grateful for everything you do. All right, some time ago, I posted an update on a ham radio issue in which a representative of CalFire was trying to remove some repeaters from some towers. And it was in a particular area where it's very prone to fire, and that makes a lack of communication, which is very dangerous. There was an update, actually, to that. The video I posted was in an effort to try to help another channel, K6UDA, I'm sorry I had to write it down over there so I could read it, get the information out because his channel is quite a bit smaller. So I took a portion of his video and incorporated it in the update and went and put the update out. Now, I'm going to do that again. I hope he doesn't mind because he's done a most recent update. But again, since his channel is so much smaller and since I already posted the information once, I want to make sure that I'm clarifying things for you now. I should let you know that in an effort to try to get you this information, I did receive quite a bit of flack from other ham radio operators and other people who accused me of passing around fake news. Now, I understand the result because they read the ARRL response, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. But there's other news out there as well. So I'm not sure whether the news is fake or not, but I do have some issues with it, which I will explain to you at the end. First, let me show you some other sources that you can get to, and all of the links to these things will be in the description for you so you can go judge for yourself whether this is right or wrong. For example, there are a number of articles that have appeared in local news and in smaller news sources like this one, the California Globe, in which they have published an article about this very subject. And you can read the title for yourself there. It's in very small print, so I have to lean up to do it. But it says, California Fire severing ties with ham radio operators and jeopardizing millions of Californians during an emergency. Now, that may seem hyperbolic to you, but it's not the only one. Here's one in an article, I think this website is called Medium or something similar, and the title there, Updated California Throws Caution to the Wind and Shuts Down Ham Radio Receivers. Again, that may seem over the top to you, but this is one of the reasons why this news got out the way it got out. Here's another one. This is from a website called Off Grid Survival. California officials declare ham radio no longer a benefit, demand ham radio repeater infrastructure to be removed. And then, of course, there's the original posting that I found on QRZ, which you can see right there, which has K6UDA's original video linked to it. Now, after we posted this, he posted it, and then I posted it, and I don't know who, what, when, where, how. Somehow it got out a lot. Then there has been some responses. First of all, ARRL posted a response on their website, which I will show you now, where they indicated, as far as they were concerned, that there was nothing to see here, basically, and that we were stirring up muck and stirring up dissension for no reason, and it was causing ARRL issues with their negotiation with the state of California, and that we were going to cause more problems than we were going to solve. Well, I don't know about that, and I actually would disagree with that sentiment, but at the same time, I'm not involved with the negotiation, so what do I know? And I'm not exactly on the cutting edge of ham radio news. I am a ham radio operator, but it's not what I live for, as it is for some folks. It's something that I like and I enjoy doing as a hobby, and certainly for emergency purposes, but I'm not as active in it as I am in firearms stuff. That's why the channel is called GunGuyTV, not Ham Guy TV. So there is a reason there. However, I'm going to show you an interview that K6UDA just posted recently in which he interviewed the attorney who's involved in this battle, and the attorney gives us some additional information I thought you might find very, very interesting. So let me post that for you, and as soon as the interview is over, I'll come back with a couple of comments that I think you might find very interesting. Here's the interview.
All right, so I am joined by Nathan Zelliff, attorney at law. Nathan represents a group of hams and non-hams in Shingletown, and I believe, what, 2 repeater owners, Nathan? Welcome to the show.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The situation came up because our repeaters, there were 2 repeaters that we use in the area that were actually being in the process of removed from the mountaintops. and I don't own any of them, but the owners have let us historically use these repeaters as part of our emergency preparedness, and they've been there for 30 years. They were installed with the consent of the state at the time, and were actually part of the Volunteers in Prevention program with CalFire. And the repeaters still have continued to be used with the purposes of the VIP program. And I've attached on my website some documentation that relates to the history of the repeaters. We've been pulling that together. And in case of the one on Latour Butte, we actually have a permission letter that was given for that repeater's installation. It didn't fall out of the sky. The 640 repeater had an engineering analysis that was done. The state required that that be done at the time that they refurbished the site. And the site was actually designed to incorporate that repeater into its system, which, by the way, the group that owns that is Shasta Tehama Amateur Radio Emergency Services, and they are part of a supporting agency in Shasta County for emergency services, and those supporting agencies include the Shasta County Sheriff Office, Shasta Tehama Amateur Radio Emergency Services, and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CalFire. So they're all supporting agencies. And it was the repeater of the Shasta Tehama Amateur Radio Emergency Services group that's a supporting agency that was being removed. And the sheriff was not aware of this, and other people that I will discuss later in the interview. Because of the mountainous terrain, we're trying to coordinate ham radio along with neighborhoods. So behind me you'll see a large map, and I've divided Shingletown into 5 divisions, and this covers a large amount of territory, I mean over 100 square miles, and there's neighborhoods that are in mountainous terrain. And so the idea is that if you have an emergency, even if you're not a licensed ham radio operator, that you could access a repeater in a life or death situation and get assistance. So loss of these repeaters would be very adverse. Okay, we brought this, and your video was very instrumental. You actually went through and read my 14-page letter and addressed it in addition to the CalFire email. What we're trying to do is stabilize. The objective I have here is keep our repeaters in Shasta County. The issue came up. We learned about the problem, drafted the 14-page letter. Your video picked this up, and I guess it caused some little bit of firestorm between different agencies. But I've been in contact with an individual in a county that has advised me that we don't want to throw more gas on the fire. There are actually agencies that are working on this in a positive manner, okay? And there's people that are on our side. They view and recognize the importance of ham radio. And so what we're doing is giving them breathing room right now to work through it. I think we're making very positive progress, and I have full faith in the official that I spoke to. I think his statements were made in good faith. So what I'm trying to do is sort of de-escalate a little bit and keep it on a positive note, because I think people are now working towards, they recognize the value of ham radio, and they're trying to work it out administratively. So this is positive, and it's going to take time, I understand, for the administrative bureaucracies to pool together, but we're making positive progress right now.
Did the ARRL help you, or what did the ARRL do in this situation?
Okay. It would have been nice to have had some assistance, but what I ran across was an article of ARRL that basically dismissed the work that was being done by both you and I. It was very negative and somewhat irresponsible from the standpoint of it actually misstated the information that was in a sheriff's letter, and sort of cherry-picked a particular phrase out of the letter and disregarded the fact that the sheriff didn't know about this situation of the removal of the repeaters. The county fire chief didn't know about it, The local representative of the California State Office of Emergency Services in our county didn't know about it. Senator Dolly didn't know about it. And the California State Sheriff's Association didn't know about it. The ARRL letter cherry-picked a quotation from the sheriff out of his letter that basically said, this is a local matter, and ham radio operators work with their local personnel to determine the value of ham radio in their jurisdictions. The problem was that, in this case, nobody local knew that this was actually even in process. And by the time they would have learned about it, the repeaters would have been gone. So ARRL, by jumping in and not actually investigating the facts, and actually misstating the facts, adversely impacted this situation. And so I did write a little response to that. I'm trying to, from my perspective, I view ARRL as basically irrelevant at this point in time. They haven't helped. And I'm focusing on a positive relationship with the state of California and our county to move this forward. And that's really my focus point at this point in time. We've made substantial progress in that regard, and I want to keep it on a positive note so that we actually get good results. And people are out there swinging for us at this point in time. Too bad ARRL wasn't there. To me, why weren't they? Why didn't they know about this? Advise ham radio operators of this issue that was out there, and why aren't they instrumental in meetings that are taking on now at the state level concerning ham? But I would not want the person that wrote the ARR article to be involved in those meetings, because that would be very counterproductive. So, but I know ARRL is very proactive in areas. The Puerto Rico situation, I read some documentation how instrumental they were in that and the great things they did in that arena. And so it may be just the local officials here in California that just don't seem to know what they're doing or don't care. But I want to keep this on a positive note. We've made progress. I think the county here in Shasta County is working with me right now, and your help has been great getting the news out here. And we just need to let the bureaucracies sort of work through this and recognize that this is a benefit, and then really address how can we coordinate between us for the good of not only the citizenry, but this also impacts the safety and well-being of the sheriffs that would arrive during an emergency and CalFire when they're fighting a fire. I mean, my idea is that early detection is better for everybody, because then the fire is smaller, can be addressed more efficiently.
I found that video to be very interesting because it presents a different picture than we had initially. And that is that the state of California is now working with this attorney to resolve the issue. And hopefully those repeaters will stay up, and the local ham club will have a chance to use them as before without them going away. So hopefully they'll come to some arrangement whereby they can do that. All right. Now, that said, I think it's important and informative and educational to compare this whole issue to the issue of firearms rights and some of the other things that have happened in the state of California. I'm in my 60s, and I've lived in California my entire life. Now, I've spent time in other states, but primarily I've lived in California, and the majority of that time I've lived in San Diego, California. I remember as a child when we had a lot more firearms rights in this state than we have now. In fact, I remember as a child when California was a fairly, what would you call it, I guess, conservative state, and when firearms rights were by and large honored, and the Second Amendment was actually revered here. It was not something that was held up as this horrible thing that needs to be chastised and reduced as much as possible the way it is now. That all started in 1968, if I remember right, in California. But before that, we didn't have those issues. Those rights have been stripped from us one item at a time. Now, there have been some other things that have happened in California that have made California worse and worse and worse and worse, and it has happened incrementally. It didn't happen all at once. It's happened over decades. So we have this bureaucrat, this woman at CalFire, who decides, whether she decided it or someone else did, I don't know, but she decides to send a very authoritative letter to the owners of a repeater, informing them that they either have to remove the repeater or pay some serious rent to keep it there. A lot of people denied any knowledge of that. Now, if you're wondering why suddenly the state of California is interested in working with this attorney and why suddenly CalFire is interested in working with this attorney, I can tell you exactly why. It's because K6UDA, again, I had to look for his call sign over here, K6UDA got on it and posted a video about it. Now, I helped a little bit by using my subscribers because I have a greater viewership than he does and actually notifying you. What's the result of that? The state was inundated. They were inundated with complaints and phone calls and people who were upset about this issue. Forgive me, I've been talking all day. My voice is starting to go. As a result, they didn't want this kind of press. They didn't want this kind of attention brought to this thing. They wanted to very quietly remove this repeater and boot these folks out. They didn't want anybody to know it was done until it was done. But because of the new media, the YouTube videos, the little website, blogs or whatever they were, word got out and people made a big noise. And as a result, those repeaters, I bet you, will stay there. Now, you can say, okay, it's only one repeater, it's only two repeaters. What's the big deal? Right. Well, here's my experience with the state of California over 60-some-odd years of living in the state. The state of California is a giant bureaucracy that thinks that it exists for the purpose of managing your life. It is of the opinion as a bureaucracy that you serve it, not the other way around. That you as a citizen are not a citizen, you are a subject, and you belong to the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy can tell you what to do, which is why the original letter was written the way it was written. This is the decision we've made. It doesn't matter that you're a taxpayer. It doesn't matter that we have a previous agreement. It doesn't matter that the land it's actually owned by you as a taxpayer because you're the one that pays the bills for all of it. And by the way, you're the one that through your taxes, I get paid as a bureaucrat. None of that matters. Here's what I'm laying down as what's going to happen, and you can just suck it up and deal with it. That was the way that letter was written. That's the way the letters are written from the state of California. That's the way the California state bureaucracy operates most of the time. I have to deal with them all the time because I have to deal with the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services, and it is quite common for them to be very forward-leaning in their approach toward me as a licensee. It's very common for them to be in your face telling you exactly the way things are going to happen. They don't want to deal with the fact that you might actually contact your assembly member, or you might contact your state senator, or you might have a YouTube channel with a couple 100,000 subscribers or, a few 100,000 views a month, and they might start getting rained on with phone calls, emails, and other kinds of contacts they don't want to have to put up with. The reason why CalFire is dealing with this attorney is because we stirred up a big trouble about it. And it's important that we did. Now, folks have accused me of putting fake news out. There wasn't fake news. The fact is that if this bureaucrat had gotten away with removing these couple of repeaters, other repeaters were going to fall. That's just how it works. We lost our firearms rights in this state of California, the once great state of California, incrementally. It's now happening in other states incrementally. If you really honestly believe that this was only about one or two repeaters, and this wouldn't, pardon the pun, repeat itself multiple times if it had been done successfully, then I believe you are naive, and I believe you're foolish. Now, I don't mean that to be insulting by any means. I just think it's time to wake up to the fact that the bureaucracy does what the bureaucracy does and gets away with what it gets away with because we think it's a small thing at the time and we let it do it and then it keeps on doing it. And one day we wake up and we've lost so much. And it takes a long time, if ever, to get back what we've lost. Well, now CalFire has been pretty much put on notice. If they take these repeaters down, there's going to be a lot of noise about it and there's going to be a price to pay. And if another little bureaucrat wants to write another letter to another ham club and say, I'm charging you rent for the repeater on the tower that you pay for as a taxpayer, by the way, and for the services that you render to CalFire and to other emergency services free of charge, thank you very much, and that you've done for decades, I'm going to start charging you rent, that there's going to be a hot bunch of news about it on this channel, on K6UDA's channel. I'll be watching his for news, and on others. Now they know. We've educated them that as a populace, we will not put up with it. gee, you know what? I think we ought to revel in that one little victory. We lose so many times. This time we didn't. So rather than beating up K6UDA or coming after me, as some folks have done, and wanting to get after me in the comments and emails and other things, take a chill pill and look at what's happened in the state of California before. I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen it. I've lived it. If this had been allowed, it would not be the first repeater to fall. It would not be the second repeater to fall. It would not be the third repeater to fall. It would not be the fourth repeater to fall that you would finally notice. It would be the 50th or the 60th or the 80th. And then all of a sudden you would realize what was happening. And by then, you'd be a little late. I'm pretty happy that we caught this one early. Just some food for thought. In any case, I've got all the links in the description. Check them out. I put links also to the original video from K6UDA and the most recent update of his. I do strongly suggest that you subscribe to his channel because this is GunGuyTV. If something happens in ham radio, he's going to notice it before I do, and he'll make sure you know before I even know to tell you. So it's a good idea to get your news about ham radio stuff there and at some of the other channels as well. Don't ignore those either. If you're a prepper and you're a little bit into ham but not a whole lot, well, that might be a good place to go is to his channel so that you can find out from him what's going on. And then keep an eye out here. If I learn something about something like that, I'll certainly let you know. But again, my focus is the Second Amendment. Well, in any case, thank you very much for your time and for listening. I know this was not necessarily gun-related, but it is important. Have a wonderful week, and please, wherever you go, whatever you do, be safe.